At my son's graduation, he took the mic and said, "I want to thank everyone, except my mother. She was never there for me." The crowd laughed as my ex-husband smirked, "Told you he'd see the truth." Tears burned my eyes, but I took a deep breath and smiled. "Actually, I have something to say too." The moment I pulled out a letter, my son's face turned pale. I never thought my son's graduation day would become the stage for a painful revelation. As I sat in the crowded auditorium of Lincoln High School in Seattle, the air buzzed with excitement. Families filled the rows, chatting and laughing, waiting for the ceremony to begin. The stage was decorated with blue and gold banners, the school's colors, and a large sign that read, "Congratulations, Class of 2025. The scent of fresh flowers filled the room, adding to the festive atmosphere. I adjusted the hem of my navy blue dress, a mix of pride and nervousness swirling inside me. My son, Daniel, was about to graduate, and I couldn't have been prouder. Despite the strained relationship with my ex-husband, Richard, I was determined to be there for this milestone. The ceremony began with the principal's welcoming speech, followed by the procession of graduates. Each name called was met with cheers and applause. When Daniel's name echoed through the auditorium, I stood, clapping enthusiastically, tears brimming in my eyes. He looked so grown up in his cap and gown, a young man ready to take on the world. After all the graduates had received their diplomas, the principal returned to the podium. "Now, we have a special address from one of our outstanding graduates, Daniel Thompson." The audience erupted in applause as Daniel stepped up to the microphone. He adjusted it slightly, scanning the crowd. Our eyes met briefly, and I offered him an encouraging smile. He looked away quickly, a flicker of something unreadable crossing his face. "Thank you, everyone," Daniel began, his voice steady. "Today is a day of gratitude and reflection. I want to thank my teachers, friends, and most importantly, my family. My father has been my rock, guiding me through challenges and celebrating my successes. Dad, your unwavering support means the world to me." The crowd clapped, and I turned to look at Richard, who sat a few rows ahead. He acknowledged Daniel's words with a modest nod and a smile. My heart tightened. Daniel continued, "However, there's one person I cannot thank. My mother." He paused, and a murmur rippled through the audience. "She was never there for me." A wave of laughter swept over the crowd, and I felt as if the ground had been pulled from beneath me. Richard's smirk was unmistakable as he leaned toward his new wife and whispered something, causing her to chuckle. Tears burned my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I took a deep breath, steadied myself, and rose from my seat. "Actually," I said, my voice clear and unwavering, "I have something to say too." I ignored him and continued, "In this letter, Richard explicitly states that he believes it's in your best interest to have minimal contact with me. He feared that my presence would confuse you and disrupt your upbringing. I fought for you, Daniel. I wanted to be there, at every soccer game, every school play, every milestone. But the court sided with your father, granting him primary custody and limiting my visitation rights." A collective gasp echoed through the auditorium. Daniel's eyes widened, his hands trembling at his sides. "I tried to reach out," I said, my voice breaking. "Every birthday, every holiday, I sent letters, gifts, messages. But they were returned unopened. I respected the court's decision, believing that one day, when you were ready, we could reconnect." Tears streamed down Daniel's face as he stepped away from the podium. "Dad?" He turned to Richard, seeking confirmation or denial. Richard's face was flushed, his mouth opening and closing as he searched for words. I thought I was doing what's best for you," he stammered. Daniel's shoulders sagged as the weight of revelation settled upon him. He descended the stage and approached me, his steps hesitant. When he stood before me, I saw not just my son, but a young man burdened by years of misunderstanding. "Mom," he whispered, "I'm so sorry." I enveloped him in my arms, holding him tightly as sobs racked our bodies. "It's okay, Daniel. We have time now. We can heal." The audience remained silent, witnessing the raw, emotional reunion. Richard slumped into his seat, his head in his hands, as the consequences of his actions unfolded before him. In the days that followed, Daniel and I spent countless hours together, piecing together the fragments of our lost years. We walked through Seattle's Pike Place Market, sharing stories over cups of coffee. We visited the Space Needle, reminiscing about the times we had missed. Each moment was a step toward rebuilding our bond. Richard reached out, seeking forgiveness. While the path to reconciliation was challenging, Daniel and I agreed to include him in our journey toward healing. The scars of the past couldn't be erased, but they served as reminders of the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring power of love. Through open communication and unwavering commitment, we forged a new beginning, proving that even in the face of betrayal and pain, redemption is possible. Things weren't as smooth as they looked after that moment at graduation. That hug between Daniel and me, it felt like healing. But the days after? They brought up more than I expected. And honestly, some of it hurt even worse than the speech. The day after the ceremony, Daniel texted me early in the morning, "Can we talk? Just us?" We met at a quiet coffee shop near Green Lake. It was cloudy, typical Seattle, and the sky matched how I felt, heavy and uncertain. He sat across from me, tapping his fingers against the cup. His face was tired, eyes red like he hadn't slept. "I want to believe you," he said, finally. "But Dad never lied to me. Not once. You just disappeared. And now it's like everything I knew might be fake." I wanted to scream, but I kept my voice calm. "I didn't disappear, Daniel. I was pushed away." "There's a difference. Then why didn't you fight harder? Why didn't you come to school? Try to see me at games?" I looked down at the table. He had no idea. I wasn't allowed. I tried. Daniel, I hired lawyers. I drained savings. Every visit I asked the court to reconsider. Richard had full custody. And he made sure to make me out like the enemy. Daniel stared at me. I could see the battle inside him, one half trying to hold on to the dad he knew, the other wondering if his whole childhood had been built on lies. Then he said something that cut deep. "Dad told me you cheated. That's why he left. Said you had someone else and didn't care about the family anymore." I froze. "What?" I whispered. He repeated it, word for word. "He said you were with some guy. That he caught you. That's why the judge sided with him." I sat there stunned, the coffee in my hand going cold. That never happened. I had never cheated. Richard had, though. He had an affair with a woman named Brooke, someone from his office at the real estate firm. She was 26 when it started. I found out the day after Daniel's 7th birthday. And suddenly, the twist of the knife made sense. Richard hadn't just lied. He flipped the whole story. He blamed me for his affair. Told our son that I was the one who broke the marriage. And because Daniel was just a kid, he believed it. "Daniel, that's not true," I said, trying to keep my voice from shaking. "I didn't cheat. Your father did. He was with someone named Brooke for over a year before he finally left. He lied to the court about me." I didn't fight back with lies. I thought it was better to stay clean and wait until you were old enough to understand. He didn't respond. We sat in silence for a long time. Then he stood up. "I don't know what to believe anymore. I need time." And just like that, he walked out. Later that week, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was Brooke. She sounded angry, annoyed that I'd blew everything up at the graduation. She told me that Richard had a breakdown after I exposed the letter. That he was humiliated in front of all the families. Then she dropped a bombshell. "He's sick. He has liver problems. He didn't want to tell Daniel until after college. Now he's not even speaking to him." I didn't know whether to feel sorry or furious. That man lied to my child for years, and now I was supposed to feel bad because his secrets finally came out. But something about what she said stuck with me. The sickness. If Richard really was ill, that could change everything. So I drove to his house. Same place we lived in when Daniel was little. He opened the door slowly, thinner than I remembered, face pale. He didn't look smug anymore. He looked tired. Broken. "What do you want?" he asked, voice hollow. I told him I needed the truth. All of it. No more lies. And then I told him something that stopped him cold. Daniel's not just confused. He's angry. And if you don't start being honest with him, you're going to lose him for good. Richard didn't respond at first. Then he stepped back and let me in. What he told me next, I wasn't ready for. He said Brooke wasn't the first. That he had cheated 3 times. Said he had his reasons, work stress, me being emotionally unavailable, whatever that meant. And when the divorce came, he knew I had a better case, especially with the affair. So he got ahead of it. He played the victim. Told the court I was unfit. Accused me of being unstable and careless. Said Daniel needed consistency. I thought I was doing the right thing. I didn't want him growing up hating me. So you made him hate me instead? He didn't answer. I left the house feeling like the floor had dropped again. I had all the pieces now. And none of it made me feel better. What was I supposed to do with all this? Go back to Daniel and say, "Your whole life has been one big manipulation?" How do you even begin to undo that? Now I'm just sitting here with all this weight on my chest. I've waited years to tell my son the truth. Now that he knows some of it, he's pulling away. I don't blame him. I'm just afraid I lost him again, this time for real. I haven't told him everything yet. Because there's one more letter. One he never saw. And if he reads it, everything changes again. 2 days after that last talk with Richard, I sat in my apartment staring at the second letter, the one Daniel had never seen. I had kept it in a shoebox under my bed, along with court papers, school photos, drawings he made as a child, little pieces of a life I missed. The letter wasn't from Richard. It wasn't from me. It was from Brooke. Dated 3 years ago. I found it in my mailbox with no return address, just one sentence on the envelope in careful handwriting: "If he ever asks why, show him this." Back then, I didn't know what to make of it. I assumed it was some guilt-ridden goodbye or a half apology. I couldn't bring myself to open it. But now, everything was different. And something told me the time had come. I tore it open. The letter was short. Just a few paragraphs. But every word hit like a hammer. "Lisa, you don't know me, not really. But I know everything about you. I saw your photos in the house. I read your old cards, the ones he never threw away. I know what Richard told you about me, and I'm not asking you to forgive me. I believed him too. At first. I thought you were unstable. That you didn't want your kid. That you ran off. But then I started finding things. Your name on custody forms, your letters hidden in his drawer. Gifts in the attic, still wrapped. Cards with your handwriting. And I realized, he lied to all of us. If Daniel ever wants to know the truth, give him this letter. He deserves it. And you deserve your son back. I sat on the bed, gripping the pages, stunned. So Brooke knew. She'd been part of the lie, and then realized it, and didn't say a word. For 3 years. I didn't know what was worse, that she'd helped destroy my relationship with my son, or that she'd found a conscience too late to fix it. But something else hit me harder. She said the gifts were in the attic. That meant Richard kept them. He didn't throw them away like he told the court. He didn't return everything unopened like I was led to believe. He hid them. That same night, I sent Daniel a photo of the letter. No message. Just the photo. He didn't respond. The next day, I got a call from an unknown number. When I answered, it wasn't Daniel. It was his fiancée. Her name was Hannah. I didn't even know he was engaged. I saw the letter, she said, her voice cold. Daniel's a mess. He's at our apartment, hasn't slept. Keeps reading it over and over. He thinks everything he's ever known is a lie. I asked to speak to him. He doesn't want to talk. Not right now. Before she hung up, she added, you should know. Richard came by. They fought. Loud. Daniel told him to get out and never come back. I couldn't breathe. After years of silence, after years of being the absent mother, the pieces were finally falling into place, but not how I imagined. Then came the next twist. I went to drop off groceries at my elderly neighbor's place a few floors down. As we chatted, she casually said, saw your ex-husband here again last week. Creeping around the building. Always seemed nervous, checking the doors. What? He was here? Yeah, 2 nights ago. Asked if you still lived in 305. That made no sense. He had no reason to come here. Unless. I raced back to my apartment and pulled out the shoebox. The court papers. The cards. The photos. The original custody order. Gone. I searched every drawer, every box, even under the bed. Nothing. That night, I checked my door camera history. I didn't always check the feed, but it auto-recorded every time motion was detected. 2 nights ago, there it was. Richard. In a baseball cap. Letting himself in with a key. I had never changed the locks. My hand shook as I stared at the screen. He had come in, taken something, and left. And the worst part? He didn't come for confrontation. He didn't come to talk. He came to cover his tracks. That's when I realized there were still lies. Still things Daniel didn't know. Richard was scared. Scared that Daniel might finally believe me. So he tried to erase the past, one document at a time. But he didn't know about the digital backups. He didn't know I had scanned everything years ago, just in case. He also didn't know that Brooke's letter had a second page. I hadn't noticed it at first, tucked behind the first one. It was handwritten, messier than the front. But the words were clear. If you're reading this, I've probably left. Or he made me. I should have said this sooner. Richard once told me, if I can't make her look crazy, I'll make sure she never looks like a mother. That's when I knew he wasn't just lying, he was dangerous. I'm sorry. I should have warned you. So now I sit here with this second letter in my hand. Daniel still won't talk to me. But I think the story isn't over yet. Because there's more he needs to know. And I'm not afraid of Richard anymore. A week passed with silence. Daniel hadn't called. He hadn't messaged. I didn't know if he read the second page of Brooke's letter, but I knew the moment was coming. One way or another, this story wasn't finished. Then I got the invite. It was Hannah's doing. She planned a small engagement party, nothing big, just family and close friends. And, somehow, she invited me and Richard. I don't know if she thought it would help or if Daniel asked her to, but either way, I wasn't about to say no. Saturday night, I arrived early. The party was held at a rooftop lounge downtown, nothing fancy, but it had a great view of the Seattle skyline. As I stepped out of the elevator, the sound of glasses clinking and low music filled the air. People were mingling. Laughing. Daniel stood near the balcony, in a navy button-down shirt, his expression unreadable. When he saw me, he gave a small nod. Nothing more. Richard arrived 20 minutes later. Alone. No Brooke. The moment he walked in, the atmosphere shifted. Quiet tension slipped through the room like smoke. Hannah greeted him politely, then stepped away. Daniel didn't look at him. Half an hour passed. People laughed, sipped drinks, took photos, oblivious. Until Daniel stepped up with a glass in hand and said, "Can I have everyone's attention?" Conversations faded. All eyes turned. Daniel cleared his throat. I just want to say thank you for being here tonight. Hannah and I are excited for what's ahead. But before we move forward, there's something I need to say. And it's not easy. My heart dropped. A week ago, I stood at graduation and thanked my father, and publicly rejected my mother. That moment was a mistake. The room went quiet. For years, I believed something that wasn't true. I believed my mom didn't want me. That she chose to disappear. That she ruined our family. And I blamed her. But I was wrong. You could hear a pin drop. I was lied to. Manipulated. She fought to be in my life. She sent letters. Gifts. She went to court. My father. He paused, glanced at Richard. My father made sure I never knew. Gasps. Richard stepped forward. Daniel, but Daniel didn't let him speak. I found letters. I found hidden gifts in the attic. And then I saw something else. Something worse. My dad broke into my mom's place. Took court papers. He was trying to erase the truth before I could find it. The tension exploded. People whispered. Some walked away. Hannah held her mouth, eyes wide. One of Richard's old colleagues muttered, Jesus, Rick. Richard's face turned pale. He looked around, cornered. You think this is fair? He barked. You don't know everything. Your mom wasn't perfect either. But she didn't lie to me, Daniel snapped. You did. 4 years. You made me hate her. And then I saw something I hadn't seen in years, Richard breaking down. His voice cracked. I didn't want you to hate me. I thought, if I told you everything, you'd leave. And I couldn't stand that. Daniel stared at him. So you made me leave her. You made me grow up thinking the one person who loved me most didn't care. The silence that followed was brutal. Someone dropped a glass. No one moved to pick it up. I stood there, stunned. Numb. I didn't want this to be public. I didn't want him humiliated. I just wanted my son to know. Richard slowly sank into a chair, face buried in his hands. Hannah walked over and hugged Daniel. His voice was soft now. I'm not saying things go back to normal. I don't know what normal is anymore. But I want to start over. With the truth. With her. He looked at me. My chest ached. I nodded slowly, eyes wet. Richard tried to speak again, but this time no one listened. A few people offered him pitying looks, others avoided him. Some left quietly. In the aftermath, there were no dramatic exits. No screaming. Just cold reality settling over everyone. I sat next to Daniel as the party thinned out. We didn't say much. Just held hands, like we hadn't in years. Later, he walked me to the parking garage. Before I left, he said, I can't undo what I said at graduation. I can't undo the years. But I believe you now. And I'm sorry I didn't sooner. I didn't need more than that. I watched him disappear into the elevator. As I drove home, the city lights blurred with my tears. I thought about everything, years of silence, lies, pain, doubt. This wasn't a storybook ending. There was still damage. Still healing ahead. But for the first time, there was also truth. And truth, I realized, was the only place real love could start again. I may have lost years. But I hadn't lost my son. Not forever. And that was enough for now.